My name is Jason, and I always thought my life was perfect. I have a loving wife, Emily, with whom I've been married for 10 years and two wonderful children. We built our dream home, which became our sanctuary, and it seemed that nothing could destroy our happiness. But everything changed in an instant, and I found myself on the brink of losing everything I held dear. Days started like any other. I woke up early, made breakfast for the family, and took the kids to school. Emily had always been a caring mother and wife, but lately I had noticed that she had become more withdrawn. She often stayed late at work, and I began to worry, but I didn't want to suspect her of infidelity. I trusted her after all we had been through so much together. On the day everything changed, I came home earlier than usual. I was filled with joy, planning to surprise Emily with a romantic dinner. However, when I walked into the house, I was struck by the silence. I felt that something was off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. When I went upstairs and opened the door to our bedroom, I caught her with another man. In that moment, my world collapsed. I stood there, unable to believe my eyes. Emily, my wife, had betrayed me. I felt my heart squeeze with pain, and my mind was racing with thoughts. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't utter a word. I simply ran out of the house, unable to stay there for even a second. At that moment, when I left the house, a terrible storm of emotions raged inside me. I didn't know what to do. I took the kids to my parents, not knowing how to explain to them why their mother was no longer home. Inside, I was filled with anger and betrayal. I couldn't believe that Emily could do this. Every evening when I lay in bed, I thought of the scene of her lying with another man, and it was unbearable. Several weeks passed, and I found myself in a state of complete confusion. I tried to cope with the horrible feeling, but it only grew. Emily kept leaving me messages asking for forgiveness, but I couldn't forgive her. I didn't know how to get back what had been lost. I felt alone and empty. The thought that I had been betrayed by someone I trusted haunted me day and night. With each passing day, Emily became more insistent in her attempts to contact me. She called, sent messages, and even came to my parents' house, but I refused to talk to her. I was filled with rage and didn't want to hear her explanations. I understood that I needed time to sort out my feelings, but it seemed like that time would never come. One evening, as I sat in my kitchen, I finally decided that we needed to meet. I wanted to hear her explanations, even though I knew it might only intensify my pain. We met at the cafe, and I saw how tired and worn she looked. I felt there was an insurmountable wall between us, but I needed to know the truth. Jason, I know I can't justify myself, she began, her voice trembling. It was a mistake, and I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked at hers, and my heart was filled with anger. How could you do this? How could you destroy everything we built? Emily explained that it was the result of a crisis in our family and that she had felt lonely and unwanted. She spoke of how hard it had been for her in recent months, how she sought comfort in another man. I listened to her, but I couldn't find forgiveness in my heart. I didn't know if I could ever forget what she had done. Months passed, and I began to realize that despite everything, I still loved her. I understood that we needed to work on ourselves to restore our relationship. We started attending therapy, and each session opened new facets of our lives. I tried to be honest and open, but the fear of betrayal always lingered in my heart. With each session, I realized that I had to earn her trust back. I began to take small steps, cooking dinners, spending time with the kids, and caring for the family. I understood that these were not just words, but actions that could help rebuild our connection. Emily, in turn, tried to show that she truly wanted to bring me back and reunite our family. We started spending more time together, and I noticed that she had become more open. We began going on dates just like in the old days. It was important for both of us to return to those moments when we first started dating. We went to the movies, walked in the parks, and simply enjoyed each other's company. I felt our hearts reconnecting, but sometimes the shadow of the past still loomed over us. I caught myself checking her actions, especially when she stayed late at work. Emily noticed this and tried to reassure me. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere, she would say. I understood that her words were sincere, but fear still resided within me. I didn't know if I could ever fully trust her again. One day, when we were sitting in the kitchen, I opened up about my fears. I told Emily how hard it was for me to cope with what she had done. She listened to me with understanding, and I felt a connection forming between us. I don't want you to suffer because of me, she said, but those words meant a lot to me, and I felt that we could face these difficulties together. Over time, as I noticed that Emily had started to trust me more, I decided to take a step forward. I suggested we have a romantic evening together. I invited her to our favorite restaurant to celebrate how far we had come. When we sat at the table, I looked at her and saw the same woman I had fallen in love with many years ago. I realized that despite everything, we had a chance to start anew. However, fear still lingered. I couldn't shake the thoughts of her betrayal, and sometimes I felt I would never be able to forgive her. But that night, as we discussed our dreams, I felt that a connection was beginning to rekindle between us. Emily smiled and said, I want us to always be together no matter what. With each passing day, I understood that rebuilding trust was a long journey, but it was worth it. Emily and I became a team, and together we could overcome anything. I was ready to work on myself, and despite all the trials, we managed to create strong relationships based on trust and love. Time passed, and as we celebrated our anniversary, I felt that we had become stronger than ever. We not only survived betrayal, but were able to restore our bond. I smiled looking at Emily and knew our future would be bright. I reflected on how important forgiveness is in life. I understood that sometimes love requires efforts, and I was willing to put in the effort. Emily and I began working on restoring trust, and this became the beginning of our new journey. Every day, we tried to be better for each other and for our kids. I wanted them to see how we loved each other despite the difficulties, showing them that family is not just joy, but also hard work. As time went by, I noticed how slowly but surely our trust was being restored. Every day I woke up with the hope that today would bring us something good. In the evenings, we would gather on the couch with the kids, watch movies, and laugh. This helped us forget past grievances, although sometimes the shadow of betrayal still hung over us. Right alongside that, I felt that warmth was gradually returning to our home. Emily was trying her best to support me and the kids. She enrolled in cooking classes and began preparing dinners for us, which always brought laughter and joy. I saw her efforts and it inspired me. One evening, while we were sitting by the fire, I opened up to Emily and shared my fears. I explained how difficult it was for me to shake off thoughts of her betrayal, and she listened to me with understanding. I know it's harder, she said, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. In that moment, I felt that something important was happening between us. As each day passed, I increasingly realized that forgiveness is not just a word, it's a commitment, and I had to fulfill it. I began to work on myself, and it helped me better understand my feelings. I tried to be a good father to our children and show them that despite the difficulties, family should always come first. As time passed, we celebrated our anniversary again, and I decided to surprise Emily. I prepared dinner and decorated the house. When she came home, her eyes lit up with surprise. "This is so beautiful, Jason," she exclaimed, hugging me. We spent the evening reminiscing about all our happy moments and making plans for the future. I felt that the trust between us was being restored, and we were ready to move forward. I understood that despite all the trials, our love had only grown stronger. We not only survived betrayal, but also managed to restore our connection. I looked to the future with optimism and knew that together with Emily, we could overcome anything. Time passed, and Emily and I continued to strengthen our relationship. Every day was a small step toward restoring what had once been broken. I realized that trust is not an easy task, but we were willing to put in the effort. I noticed that Emily had become more attentive and caring, and it inspired me. One evening, while we were sitting in the kitchen, I opened up about my fears once again. I told Emily how hard it was for me to let go of thoughts about her betrayal, and she listened to me with understanding. I know it's difficult, she said, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. These words were significant to me, and I felt that a connection was truly being restored between us. Emily and I started to spend more time with the kids and make family outings. I always wanted them to see how much we loved each other despite all the difficulties. I understood that family is not just happiness but also hard work. We try to be examples for our children and show them that love requires effort. As each day passed, I increasingly realized that forgiveness is not just a word, it's a long and arduous process. But I was ready for it because I knew that love requires effort. Emily and I became a team, and together we could overcome any obstacles. I felt that despite all the trials, we could build something new and strong. In the end, our story became a symbol of hope and love. I was grateful for every minute spent together and knew that we still had many happy moments ahead. Together with Emily, we became a team, and together we could overcome all the difficulties.